Hi, I'm Zach. That's my dog Winter, and that's my van Gertie. Call her Dirty Gertie because she's always dirty and rarely clean. This is about as clean as she usually gets. Spent a lot of time on dirt roads, traveling through all sorts of weather, so she tends to be more dirty than clean, but she's pretty spiffed up for you to come check her out, and I'm excited to tell you all about her. This van is a 2019 4x4 170-inch wheelbase extended Sprinter. So it's the 170 wheelbase, but it's got a little bit extra in the back here. It's about 16 or 18 inches, something like that, that just sticks back. Kind of changes how it tows, but it's not a big deal. It's really nice to have the extra space back there. I utilize it for a lot of my adventure equipment and stuff I have hung up in the back. There's a little bit of extra space back there. I really like having 100 square feet worth of space. To put that in perspective, the 144s have about 60 square feet of space, and the regular 170 has about 180, so you can kind of see the changes there. So Winnie and I have been living in the van for about 1.5 years now, and we've been traveling full-time for about 1 year now. I started traveling in October last year, and I've pretty much been on the road since then, with a few weeks here and there for holidays and when I'm staying with friends. It's definitely better for the vehicle and the batteries to get plugged in every once in a while, so I still try to do that every few months whenever I can. But almost all the time I'm off-grid. So I was basically building it during the entire 1.5 years leading up till today that I was already living in the van. So it's quite a different rig than it was when I first built it and first moved into it. Like, it's a completely different rig. I learned a lot. I used different materials. I got better tools. I took my time more, and I changed things that weren't working well for me. So this is really the third and final version of this van. I do have some plans for changes and upgrades maybe down the road if I feel I really need it, or if funding allows, stuff like that. But until then, I'm going to call it complete. There's fresh paint on everything, which means that it's done. The finishing work is done. There's only a few things I could really do, but I don't see the need, and it's working great. So I'm really happy to show you what I built and what I developed over time with the van and the systems that I do. It works pretty good, but it only works good for me. So if you have a different opinion, great, share it down below. I'd love to hear from you, but also understand that I'm doing it in a way that works for me. But I'll definitely read all the comments. I look forward to hearing from you about things that I could change or update. But understand I'm going to do what I want to do in the end, and that's kind of how the world works. We all have choices. I really developed this as a one person, maybe two people and a few animals type of rig. There's definitely room for improvement for my storage and stuff like that, but right now I don't really need to improve it. I can kind of use it as it is. And we're going to get into the nitty-gritty details of what this build entails. So with that, cue the music.
If you feel it, just dance along, dance along, dance along, yeah. Yeah, if you feel it, just dance along. Got to keep the feeling going on and on. Yeah, if you feel it, just dance along, dance along. Oh, it just feels so good. I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good, good, good. Oh, I just feel so good.
So as for the details on the van, I have 25 gallons of water, which is good for like 5 to 7 days, and then I have a 7-gallon electric water heater. But once the water runs out in the 25-gallon, I don't have a way to pull it out of that 7-gallon water heater. So I realistically only have 25 gallons usable. I think I could make something up that would work, but that's the reality of the situation. As for my power, I have 600 amp hours of Battle Barn lithium iron oxide batteries. Differentiate from lithium ion. Lithium ion batteries are the ones that we use in our phones and high performance things. But for house batteries, deep cycle batteries, lithium iron oxide are the way to go. I have a 3000 volt, I think it's volt amp inverter, which is a pretty good size one. The biggest ones I've seen are like 4,000. That's the biggest I've seen. So 3,000 is really solid. It can produce basically whatever load your batteries can stand. I have 7 AC outlets. 2 of them are on either side of the rear doors, and then I have 5 more in my living area. There's one right by the main door, one in the kitchen area, 2 hidden underneath the bench. One is kind of behind the driver's seat and it has the USB ports and an AC plug-in, and then the other one is hidden underneath the bench, and that runs the outlets where I charge my electronic devices in a cabinet. The USB stuff that I use regularly, I have iPhone cables or whatever cable I use in that area plugged into it almost all the time and then just tucked away when I'm not using it. That way I always have a charger within reach for my iPad or my phone. I use both of them, and I always like to have that charge point handy. So one of the things I really did with the van is I built it so that everywhere is comfortable and useful in the way that I need it to be useful. And I have a lot of stuff within arm's reach, so it makes a really big difference for my level of comfort. Sometimes it's too easy not to move for long periods of time, so I actually have to get up and walk around. I can charge my electrical system with shore power, my alternator, and shore power is just plugging it into, I can do up to a 30 amp outlet, and I can actually dial down how much I pull down to 15 amps, so if I'm plugged into a house, it'll never pull more than is safe. But thankfully, I don't really have anything that's a heavy enough load. And finally, I have 290 watts of solar on the roof, and that's another way I charge it. I also have a special treat. I have Wi-Fi via SIM card, so as long as I'm within Verizon service, I have unlimited data on a SIM card router that just picks up on cell service. And then I have a Weboost antenna on the roof, and that Weboost antenna allows me to connect when there's weaker signal. So it'll take like 2 bars and make it 4 bars, and I have seen it pull 2 bars from where there's no signal otherwise. So it really can be a clutch device to have, even though it doesn't always work perfectly. Like, my biggest complaint with it is the internal antenna that boosts the signal that my phone picks up on the boosted signal from only has a 3-foot range. So I've elected to wrap it around the antenna of my router, and then that keeps it the best signal to the router. And most of the time I have pretty good service, and if I don't have service in one place, I can find it in another. It's not really that hard these days with some of the apps that are available. So I have a propane stove, so I carry 2 propane bottles. They're 12-pound bottles, and one lasts about 5 to 6 months. And so I have a lot of time to fill up the spare one. As far as going to the bathroom, I have a porta potty made by Thetford. I'll show you that when I bring you inside. It holds, I think it's like 4.5 gallons of black water, which I can make last realistically about a week. By a week, it tends to start smelling really bad, and it has like 3.5 gallons of flushing water. It's electric. You push the button and it flushes water down. I'm not going to really show you my toilet, but I'll show you where it's at, and I think it turned out pretty good. A friend of mine kind of gave me the idea, and I ran with it. As far as my gray water, I have a 5-gallon tank just underneath my sink, and it has a ball valve that releases and allows the water to dump down onto the ground or into a container. I used to have an electrically actuated valve, but unfortunately that produced a ton of heat when I flipped the switch to close it, or excuse me, when I flipped the switch to open it, it produced a lot of heat. That thing would also clog up a lot, so finally I just took it out. Now I'm just using the ball valve. For my bed, I have a full-size queen bed. It's like 7 inches of foam, 2 inches of it is memory foam, really, really comfortable. I actually have some stuff stuck under the foot and the head of the bed, which makes it kind of a banana shape, but that helps a lot with my back. So it's a really, really comfortable bed, and I always look forward to going to sleep. I have a really deep stainless steel sink. I really love it. The problem with the stainless is it's really hard to keep clean, so I end up using a lot of water to clean it, but I really like the sink. I also have a 3-burner stove top with an oven. I can bake, a sheet of cookies or make a small pizza or something, or cinnamon rolls that I like. I like to make brownies. It's just nice to have something to bake with, and I can heat up food much easier with that than I can with a stovetop. That was also part of my latest renovation. It was actually the main reason for having to rebuild the whole kitchen, was because that thing just took up way more space than what I used to have, which was just a 2-burner. I have a Maxxair Fan. Those of you that don't know, it's a 10-speed fan. Mine came with a remote, and it also has buttons on it, and it's all automatic. It has a hood on top. It does 10-speed in or 10-speed out. and then it has a hood that electrically opens on top. You can run it when you're driving, you can run it when it's raining, you can run it when it's windy. In extreme circumstances, I would keep it closed. Like if you have a really bad wind coming from the back, like 50, 60 miles an hour, like I did actually in the same spot a few weeks back, you don't want to open it because it'll actually start pulling it up. I didn't realize that the wind had that much strength. But the Maxxair Fan's great. It does take a lot of cleaning when you're running it a lot, but all you have to do is pull the screen that protects your fingers off of there and pull the fan off. I just use soap and water. I'll just use biodegradable soap all over it, and then I'll dry it off and then put it back in the fan. And the same thing with the screen, just soap it up and spray it off, get all the dirt off, and put it back together. It's really easy with soap and water. So I have a rear outside shower that has magnetic curtains that'll go between the door or the trailer depending on how I need to block people from seeing me. I've gotten pretty creative with it. Sometimes the wind gets in the way, so I have to use chairs to keep my curtain from blowing away at inconvenient times. But I really do like showering outside. It's really refreshing. It keeps me motivated to move quickly, because if that wind comes up, it really doesn't matter what temperature it is. Maybe if you're in direct sunlight, you'll be okay, but when it's windy and you're wet, it gets cold fast. But I do like to take those showers. They're free. I can just go outside and take a quick shower. It's really nice and pleasant. Well, looks like Winnie's going to bed. Right, Winnie? So we'll let her go to bed and we'll finish this up. So as for windows, I cut in 3 vent windows. You can see one right there, and there's 2 on the other side of the van. I cut those in myself, as well as the big window in the door. I cut that one in. I really didn't want it to feel like a cave, and I wanted to have good airflow with the fan. Some people put 2 fans in, one at the front and one in the rear, and they get good circulation out of that. For me, I decided to put 1 fan right in the middle and then have vent windows. With all those windows, you let out light and lose privacy. I have blackout covers for all of my windows. My small windows have curtains on them all the time, just to keep the visibility down and the light more muted. I like a more muted light in there anyways. And then I have a magnetic cover that goes over my big side window in the door right here. I have a magnetic window that covers each side window in the front of the cab, and then I have one in the front that covers that 100%. I have the Lagun table, which is really just a table leg, and then I made the tabletop. I'm going to be replacing that tabletop soon to one that matches my countertop, but for now I still have the original one I made, which is just out of plain old, I think it's a little bit over 1/2 inch plywood, but it's definitely not 3/4 inch plywood. The Lagun table, which is kind of the standard table that you're finding these days in van conversions. Finally, I have my passenger chair swivel. It allows my passenger chair to swivel around. I'll show you that inside. It really opens up the van a lot and adds a really comfortable seat to sit in for guests and for myself. Alright, so let's do the outside tour of the van. This is the part that I most recently upgraded a lot. I upgraded this at Adrenaline Vans. I didn't do it myself. The size of the van and the size of the amount of work that needs to be done, I definitely thought it would be better to turn it over to the professionals who do these kits all the time and know what they're doing, and if they screw up, they can fix it. It's a lot harder for me to do suspension work off-grid, especially without the right tools, especially brake work. So the suspension and brake work really made a big difference for how the van handles on the road, obviously, how it does off-road, my level of comfort on the interstate, the wind resistance. When I'm getting crosswinds, the van barely notices compared to what it was before. So, and then with this big front bumper, I don't have to worry about deer as much, and then I have good lights on it. And then, of course, whoop, right there, got a nice 12,000-pound winch that is really good for pulling myself out of problems and pulling other people out of problems. So with that, let's dive into it. I want to start with one thing that's not really an outside thing, but I use it outside the most. My remote start from Mid-City Engineering has saved my bacon having a dog on the road. Temperature is the biggest factor. So with this remote start, I can start my van and have it run for an hour before it needs to be started again, which is plenty of time for me to go shopping, to get some food, to do my laundry, stuff like that. It really gives me some peace of mind knowing that I don't have to worry about Winnie overheating in temperatures that are too hot for her to be safe in the van alone without me. The specific remote I have is actually designed for the needs of an RV. It's a remote start, it's also a high idle, and lastly it activates the factory alarm system, which is just the alarm system that goes off if the door is opened without the alarm being disabled. So the actual model number of the unit I'm using is SKS NG907RV. The RV at the end is what gives you the whole 3-package deal. The high idle is what brings the idle of the van from about 700 RPMs when it's normally idling after you just start it and let it run for a little while, and it brings it up to about 1500 RPMs. What that does is that creates a load on the engine, more heat in the engine. That way, if the emission system, which is a particle filter in the exhaust, gets full, there's enough heat to burn it off and clean out that filter. That's an important cycle that the sprinters have to go through, and if you don't have it at a good high idle, then that's how you can clog those filters. So that's why the high idle is important. If the van is idling, you want to have a high idle on it just because it prevents that filter from getting clogged. Now, if you don't have a high idle, you can idle it for short periods of time, but you want to be careful to have long periods on the highway in between that so that it can burn off. So that's why the high idle is important on these. Now, the remote start, as I alluded to, is really important for me and Winnie. I want to be able to have my dog with me, and I want to make sure that she's safe. And sometimes I have to go into stores for up to an hour, or I have to go work out or go take a shower or something like that, and she has to be in here alone. If the temperature is 80 or 90 degrees, that's too hot for her to be safe with the fan on only. So I have to get the AC system. Since I don't have an auxiliary air conditioning system on the van, to save money and power output, I just have the one that runs when the engine is going. So I can use my remote start to have that run for up to an hour while I'm in a store doing something I need to get done. And what's great is when it's on the remote start, it goes to the high idle automatically to warm it up faster and to prevent the filter from getting clogged. So it's a really, really good system. They use it in ambulances a lot, and that way they can have the ambulance warm and ready to go when they take off, which increases the performance of the engine and decreases the wear on the engine. So all around it's really good. And if, let's say, the ambulance is waiting for somebody, it can stay running with that high idle and not damage the exhaust system. So one of the other trick functions that this remote start has is it can link in with my battery monitoring system, my BMV 712 made by Victron. It has a relay line that it can send a signal out to key off this remote start using parameters that I'd set. So I've actually told it to turn on the remote start if my batteries get down to 30%. Then they will run until the van charges up 20%, and then it'll either shut down at that point or it'll run for a full hour and then shut down at that point. It's really, really nice. I never have to worry about my batteries dying as long as there's diesel in the tank. Sometimes it'll wake me up in the middle of the night, but take it from me, if you've never experienced it, it's much better than waking up to dead batteries, because then you can't turn on the heater or anything like that. So that's a really great feature that I use very rarely because I have 600 amp hours now, but when I had 300 amp hours, it was really, really nice because after about 3 days, I'd be getting low, and then it'd just start right up, and I wouldn't have to worry about it dying on me. And then I'd go for a drive and charge it up. So really, really nice. That kind of concludes my review of the remote start system from Mid-City Engineering. Definitely go check them out. Reach out if you have any questions to me or Mid-City. The guys and gals over there are really, really nice. So for my outside tour, we'll start at the front here. I have my Backwoods Adventure Mods bumper. This thing is amazing. It's big and guarded. That's really what I wanted. I wanted to guard the front of my van from any heavy animal strikes because there's some sensitive items up there. And this thing definitely does the trick. I can't remember how thick the aluminum is, but it's pretty sizable. I also have a Warn winch in there that's 12,000 pounds, and it has a little Bluetooth remote with a synthetic line. And then I have 2 pods there, and then on the other corner, and then this double row, I think it's a 20-inch light bar. And that all came with the bumper, which I had installed by Adrenaline Vans. And then moving just to the top here, there's actually a wind deflector that protects the front of my van from getting hit by rocks, and it works really good. And I had a bunch of little rock chips, and it actually covered all of those. and then it's protected from having future ones. It also stops a lot of bugs from hitting the windscreen. I still get some, but it does a really good job, and it just sticks on, so you don't have to worry about any extra holes. As for my side windows, I actually tinted those just for privacy, light, and it's much nicer to drive. And then the lights at night don't interfere with your mirror and your eyes as much, so I really like having tinted windows. And I also put, right on the leading edge, I put those deflectors that go along the windscreen so that I can have the window cracked and the rain can't get in, either when I'm driving or when I'm stopped. It's a really nice feature to have a little bit of extra ventilation, especially when it's moist out. Under my hood, I have an Agile Off-Road ARB air kit. It's the ARB twin compressor pump. It has a bracket to hold it and lines to go inside the hood and to the back of the van. I have it mounted just underneath my hitch. Really, really nice to have that, especially since these tires can go up to 80 psi when I'm fully loaded. So I really like to have a pump that's capable of doing 80 psi within a reasonable amount of time. Well, the wind is really getting to me out here, so I'm going to go grab a jacket. Oh, that's a little bit better. On the passenger side of the van, right there, you can see my Fiamma F80S awning. I don't know what the length of it is, but it's the length that you get for the 170 Sprinters, and I love having that thing. It's really big, so that's nice, but it also catches the wind really easily, so it takes a lot of determination to keep it from getting destroyed, and I have to pay attention to the wind strength a lot. I mentioned my Maxxair Fan. I have that guy on the roof, along with my solar panels and my Weboost antenna. So those are the rest of the items I have on my roof. And then on the side of my van, on the driver's side, about midway back on the van, I have a Luminesce ladder, which I love. It's got the round bars. I really like round bar ladders. There's just less angles for things to get stuck on in dirt and mud. And they work great for climbing, and I think it looks really good on the side of the van. Along the bottom of the van, you can kind of see it right there. You can see my running boards. I wasn't going to get them because they reduce your clearance a little bit, but these actually hang down less than some of the stuff underneath the van. So I'm not too, other than the axles, so I'm not too worried about it, and they've been really nice to have. It makes it much easier to get in and out of the van. I was basically leaping in and out before, so it's nice to have those. And I already talked about my suspension, but my suspension is definitely one of the best upgrades I got. It keeps my van planted on and off the road. It's smooth, it's comfortable. It's the kit's made by Agile Off-Road. They call it their RIP kit, which is Ride Improvement Package. And that's basically what it does. It improves the ride everywhere, and it's not like a patch. It's a full new suspension system. It adds an extra strut in the front. It adds more leaf springs and thinner leaf springs in the back. More quantity of leaf springs for a given weight gives you a more supple ride. And then there's also a replacement Fox shock back there as well, like there is up front. So it's a really, really nice system. Great upgrade. I'm really happy with it. And it makes the van perform spectacularly on and off road. Another thing I got from Agile Off-Road is their Alcon big brake kit. I don't remember the exact dimensions, but big rotor, bigger calipers to grab the rotor, higher quality rotor. Then they also have the stainless steel lines, which are much stronger, give you a much firmer push on the pedal. So it's definitely the way to go. And I'm very happy with the brake upgrade kit, especially with a trailer that I haul. It doesn't have its own brakes, so the van has to do all the braking all the time. So having that extra stopping power has been a huge upgrade, and I highly recommend it. Well, that concludes the outside of the tour. Don't really have time to go inside now. It's about bedtime for me, so I'm going to go inside and get some rest. But in just a few seconds, we're going to continue the tour in the morning. Now's a great time to hit that subscribe button. I've put a lot of work into this video. It's been probably about a week and a half of work to this point, and I still have more filming and several days of editing to do before it's finished. So there's a lot of work that I put into this. So if you could help me out by hitting the thumbs up at the very least, if you're getting something out of this video, and if you want to see more from me, please hit the subscribe button. I'd love to see you join the crew, and see you on the next video. Have a great night. Good morning, welcome back. We're gonna go inside today. It's a little bit hot and sunny out here. I'm gonna start with the back of the van and then we'll come inside as the day gets hotter. I'm looking forward to showing you the rest of the van, so let's get to it. Come on. Let's start the inside tour with the garage shed area. That's the curtain that's at the back of my bed, and then it's actually tucked underneath the mattress there, and then you can see the bed platform there. There's actually 3 panels. They're about that wide, and they extend across the bottom of the bed, and then they have gas cylinders that actually compress when you pull each end together, and then you can just pull it out of the rail system, and there's just 3 of those that hold up the bed. If there's no mattress on there, you can pull them out all of them out in less than a minute. If there's a mattress, depending on how many people, you can have the whole bed removed in about 5 minutes, give or take. So it's a really nice bed. It's made by Adventure Wagon. It costs about $5 grand, which is crazy, but they machine it specifically for the vehicle. It fits really, really, really good. They have to pay somebody to make it specific because none of the parts, very few of the parts, are interchangeable. Some of the L-track and stuff is, but other than that, it's a completely one-off item, so it does cost quite a bit of money to get, but the convenience is huge, especially if you're doing a rig that you need it to be able to morph into different things, or if you want to put bikes underneath but you want to sleep lower, which is what my intention was. But since I live in the vehicle, that became very arduous to do. So I elected to get my trailer, which I'm not really going to show you. It's a 5x8 trailer. It's really small. I don't really have a lot of room in there to even put like storage built-ins. I have to rely on containers and just strapping stuff down. So I'm not a huge fan of the small trailer, but the huge convenience it adds is it's the most convenient way to haul a bike without being inconvenienced all the time. The trailer works great. There's really not much to show on the inside. I have a motorcycle and a mountain bike and some miscellaneous motorcycle and mountain bike things. The van is set up as its own entity. The trailer is set up as its own entity. When I want to haul bikes and stuff like that, the trailer has everything I need. When I don't, I can leave the trailer somewhere. This has everything I need to live in it and most of my other hobbies. Which brings me to the next part. So next to the curtain, you can see I got my fishing gear here. There's my pole. There's my vest with all my stuff in it. Down the road, I may get some waders, but I haven't gotten there yet. And those should fit back here as well, which is really the main goal of this curtain. I may also put some hooks on the ceiling so that I can just hang stuff across, because I don't really care or move the curtain unless I am changing the bed for the most part. Also up on the curtain, you can see there's like a bag hanging there. And then there's something else hanging up there. That's where I hang the bag that holds my shower curtain, this guy here. And then right there, that's my hammock that I can use when there's trees around. I usually just need one tree, and then I can use my ladder for the rest of it. I love having a hammock. It's really nice. I don't pull it out that often, but it's a quick, easy setup, quick, easy take down, and it's a really nice way to sleep when the weather's just perfect. Now down below the bed, that's kind of the shed area. I don't have any vehicles stored in there, so it's not really a garage. So the garage is actually the trailer. This is more kind of a shed unit here, but most people call it the garage. It doesn't really matter what you call it. It's my storage area. And those are my tools there. Those are tools that I need for mechanical stuff. And then behind that are the tools I need for more construction stuff, like inside the van, fixing things, taking things apart, repairing things, which is the same as fixing, or rebuilding things, which is what I meant to say. In the middle, I laid down carpet. That's just sound deadening and insulation. I had extra, so I put it down. It stops my stuff from sliding around so much, and it makes it make less noise when I go over bumps, and less noise at night, less noise when it's windy, less cold air coming up through the bottom of the van. That's the place that's the coldest, or noticed to be the coldest by most people that live in vehicles, because it gets ice cold when it's cold outside and it never warms up, even if you have a ton of insulation on it. On this side over here, it's just a little storage door. It's just kind of a quick place. I have my notes hiding in here. It's just a quick place to throw stuff. I mainly have straps, ropes, cords, cables, any type of thing like that is hiding out in there. Just quick and easy access, although it doesn't always work the way I intended it to because there's so much stuff in there. That's something I'll work on over time, or I won't, because it doesn't really inconvenience me that often. It just inconveniences me when I need to use it, which is very rare. Then on the far side, right about there, you can see I have a hot and cold faucet. Right here is just kind of a big gap. That's where I store all my water hoses, my air hose, my water filter, and the two different spray nozzles I use. I have one that I use for cleaning out my little porta potty, and then I have another one I use to take showers with. They both will work great for either, but it's nice to keep the two activities separate. And then I use the porta potty one to spray stuff off as well. I only use that other one just for showers. Just makes more sense to me. Also in that space right about there is my water tank. I put some markings on it recently when I did my paint job. The markings just tell me when it's half tank, 3/4 tank, or 1/4 tank. And that helps me to know when I need to get water. Like right now I'm just below half a tank, which doesn't mean I need water at all. So I'm good to go for a few days yet. I'll probably get water tomorrow just to be safe, but I'm pretty good down to a 1/4 tank, and then I start to get a little concerned, especially if I can't find water anywhere nearby. Just above that, this is my vent hose, and this is my filler hose here. When I'm filling up, I just put this filter in there like that, hook the hose up to the other end, goes directly in. When I can't pay attention to it, I put the vent hose down below. That way, if it overfills, it starts coming out of the vent onto the ground rather than out of this tube into my van. So that covers the garage area. Not a lot back here. The most important part is the shower. I also come back here for tools, stuff like that. My levelers are back here. My spare propane tank, all that is stashed back here. And so I do come back here a lot, but it's not a living area, so I don't really focus too much on it as far as like cleanliness and organization. I just need to have the stuff in a place that I know where it's at. Finally, it's time to see what I accomplished inside the van. Welcome to the van. We finally made it. I'm really excited to finally show you the inside of the van. I really feel proud about what I've made here. I tried to not focus so much on this is the right way to do it, and I just kind of did it which way made sense to me. If I got stuck and was having challenges, I'd look it up on YouTube, but for the most part, I tried to really build this thing as I saw fit, not necessarily as other people saw fit. I did get a lot of advice, and I did get a lot of ideas from other people that I incorporated, whether talking to people that didn't know anything about van building and giving that fresh perspective, or talking to people that knew something about it, or watching videos of people that knew something about it so that I could build it. So I really do feel like most of this is kind of my creation. Some of it's a little different. Some of it may not be as pretty as some people like, but for me, I like it. I like the messiness. It's kind of a artistic expression for me because I'm more of a mechanical mindset, but I'm very creative in that mindset. I think it turned out really good. I'm really proud of it. I can't wait to show you, so let's get into it and get a nice tour of this interior. So we're going to start with the cab. So my passenger seat has a swivel on it, so it's spun around, adds a huge space to the rear cargo area, because the rear cargo area is 100 square feet, and then there's a little bit up front too. So when you spin that around, it really opens up the space, and it gives you a whole other seat. That's usually the guest seat because it's the most comfortable. It does take some effort to set up, and then since that's what Winnie sits in most of the time when we're driving, it's got a lot of hair on it. So I have a cover over it, which is easier to vacuum than underneath, but I usually end up having to vacuum both every time I pull it off. Underneath the passenger seat is my S-Bar D2 diesel heater. It pulls diesel right out of my diesel tank. There was already a tap built into the Sprinter from the factory, so all I did is get the right attachment, attached it up, and it pulls diesel directly from the tank and burns it. If I'm talking 0 degrees outside and I'm running the heater most of the time to stay warm in the van, then it'll burn about 1 to 2 gallons per day, keeping the van hot. That's a very reasonable amount, I think. It's very fuel efficient, and diesel's always easy to get. I get it every time I refill. So if I'm parked in a cold place for a while, I have to keep that in mind. Mine does have the altitude sensor, and I think that's really necessary. You don't realize how often you change altitude unless you're out east. You change altitude all the time when you're in the western United States. If you go down south, there's tons of mountains down in South America and Central America. If you go up north, I mean, it's Canada and the Rockies. You can hit a lot of mountains there unless you're in like the flatlands of Alberta. So I highly recommend getting one with an altitude sensor. Kind of the last thing I did for the cab was I built the overhead shelf. Actually, that was one of the first things I did in the van, is I built that overhead shelf because it was just wasted space. It was kind of nice to stand up in the cab, but you never do it. So I wanted to get that overhead shelf in there. And with the overhead shelf, I was able to put a curtain rod with curtains. The curtains normally are just tucked behind the driver's seat. I have a small thin wall there, and those isolate both light and heat and vision from getting to the back of the van. My last renovation, I added the door. That keeps stuff from falling out. Doors are just necessary in a moving vehicle. No matter how well you wedge stuff in there, it always falls out. Or I have, on the face of all my shelves, I have like a barrier to stop stuff from falling out if it's open. But that really just stops it from falling out when I open the door. If I'm driving, it can still pop out. So that really concludes the cab. So with that, we're going to move on to the kitchen area. The kitchen is probably my favorite area, and it's also the most recent. So everything's really turned out great. It's 10 times better than the one I had before, which was really just thrown together so that I could move in and have a functioning vehicle. One of my clever little designs was I came up with this mirror. It rotates so that I can face it inward and be closer to the sink when I'm using it to like trim my beard or shave or whatever I'm using it for. Cut my hair. I do my own hair. All that stuff. It's really nice to have a mirror close to your face. And the other thing that's really handy is to have light. Now, it's hard to have light permanently mounted on a moving mirror, especially when you don't have manufacturing capabilities like I do. So what I did is I found these two little strip lights that are magnetic and they can move. So I attach them above and below my mirror, and then I have dim and bright lighting. I have one of them is more than enough, but I have two of them with this mirror, and it can really light up my face so that I can see what's going on. And then, of course, those are auxiliary lights that I can use in other places because I have USB plugs all over the van. So I really like having that mirror. It's a full-length mirror would be nice, but I don't really need it that much. I've found ways around not having one. You just kind of get used to it, in my opinion. Over the kitchen is my overhead pantry. I have basically all of my food in there. All the food that's in there is all the food that doesn't go in the fridge. The rest of the food is all in the fridge. So it's either up there or in the fridge. I have some canned foods that I eat sometimes, and then I have those as a backup, and then I keep all my bread, all my spices, all that stuff up above the kitchen, which is a very convenient spot because when I'm cooking, I just open it up, leave it open, all the stuff's right there, super easy to get to. On the end of it, right next to my mirror, I forgot to mention I have a little hook. That's where my key goes whenever I am not driving the van. When you live in a vehicle, you find that it's much better when you have a spot for everything in every condition. So you want to have a spot to put stuff when you're parked. You want to have a spot to put stuff when you're driving so that it's handy. So I actually have a hookup near the front of the van so I don't have to have my key in my pocket all the time. I can just leave it up there. And then I have a key back here right next to my mirror, which allows me to always know where my key is at so I don't lose it. And then if I accidentally set off the alarm by opening the side door, which I do on occasion, I just reach over and turn off my alarm so I only get one loud beep to wake up the entire desert where I'm at alone. Now moving on to the lower portion of my kitchen, down below is where I have my refrigerator, right on the end. There's a lot of advantages and disadvantages to having it right by the door. Having it by the door means I can get stuff out of it easily and put stuff into it easily from the outside. It also means that it's not opening into the aisle area here where I walk a lot, where Winnie lays a lot, so it's nice not to have it interfering with that. I do have to move my passenger chair all the way forward if it's in the back position, or if it's in the normal forward-facing position, so that I can crouch down and actually look in the fridge. But a lot of times I open it, the door comes towards the inside of the van, so I have to kind of lean over it and find stuff. But that tends to work well. And then if I need to get into it, I can open it and sit down and actually put all the stuff into it. And if I have stuff that needs to go into the fridge or comes out of the fridge, it goes right on top of the countertop too. So that's a really, really handy setup. And I like it a lot better than when I had it facing inward. It's just a little bit more out of the way, but also at the same time it's in a more convenient spot, so I like it better. Because I have the 2x4s on either side of the fridge, the space in between here right over the fridge was just a hole. And I was going to block it off on this side, and then on the back side it was going to have a drawer. So I blocked it off on the back side, which made my drawer a little smaller. That's where I hid the outlet, the DC outlet, and the light switch that I used to have on the end of the countertop, which was actually really annoying. Every time I plugged it in, all I did was run into the cord all the time. The same thing with the USB cords. They were just hanging all over the place because I didn't have any place to store them. The cubby gave me a place to store those things. I also have a headlamp in there, a bright flashlight. Making everything as convenient as possible with a nice layout has been my goal the whole time. So one thing I'm particularly proud of is my drawer right here. It's very, very crooked. It has the soft close, but I made it too long so that the soft close doesn't work. But that's an advantage in the end because I don't have to have a latch on it. It never comes out. Since the soft close is just starting to grab it and pulling it in at the point that it's at, that means that it doesn't actually move unless you pull on it. It doesn't have enough weight behind it. None of my doors have any additional latches that you have to undo or touch or anything. You just grab them, pull, they open. Very occasionally I'll hit a bump that's strong enough to open one of them, and then maybe one or two things will fall out, but for the most part I never have any issues. My countertop, which is one of the first things that I should cover, but I'm covering it now, is butcher block. All I did was I did a gray stain on it. I think I did it twice to get it a little thicker. I put it on, wipe it off really quick, purposely left it kind of messy to create some good contrast, and I think it turned out really, really nice. Now my sink, when I did the renovations, since I was changing the countertop, I figured I might as well get an even bigger sink. So I got a big stainless steel sink, which can dent, but it won't crack like the old one I had. I had an old one that was like the perfect size. I think it was 9 by 9 by like 8 inches deep. But unfortunately it cracked on the border early on because the plywood that I used as my countertop wasn't flat. So sometimes that happens. I elected to get something that wasn't going to crack down the road. It's about the size of a reasonably sized, full-size kitchen sink and maybe even a little bit deeper. It was a tight fit because my countertop is only 36 inches tall, and then I have to fit a whole bunch of stuff under there, but I managed to make it work with my gray water tank and everything, so it's pretty clutch how everything worked out. I can use it to wash my head, I can use it to wash my feet, I can use it to wash dishes, I can use it to wash clothes, I can use it to store dishes if I need to suddenly get going somewhere or store anything garbage. With the big sink, I wanted to have a standard size spray nozzle, so I just have this mow and spray nozzle. The nozzle comes out of it so that I can spray however I want. It changes over to a wider pattern so I can spray things down. I use it a lot to clean the sink. I can use it to wash my hair. It's nice to have a detachable hose like that. I always have it to the left and down because if I'm driving and it's up, it will tip forward and turn on and dump water everywhere because it's never aimed in the sink when the water's turned on and I'm driving. It's just a fact of life. I've learned to accept it. Right next to that is a little small nozzle, some of you may know is a water filter nozzle. I have a 2-stage filter system made by Watts down below. Water always comes out tasting really, really good. If I'm going to drink it or consume it, or if Winter's going to drink it or consume it, then it comes out of that filter system. And that thing's really clutch. The filters last forever with the amount of usage that I get out of them. Everything will either be linked below, or if you need to find it, I can get you to the resources that will get you to it. There's quite a few RVers and van lifers that have taken the time to do a lot of research on some things. I've definitely taken advantage of their research. So if I can direct you to them, that's what I'm going to do because they're going to give you more information and they did the work, not me. If you need any links, search below. If you don't find them down there, hit me up in the comments and I'll get back to you. Next to my faucet and my filter and above my sink, I have that lovely little soap dispenser because you're going to need soap. Why do you want to take up storage space with that soap? You want to just put it in a dispenser and then always have it handy. So I have biodegradable soap in there. I can use it on my hands. I use it on my sandals when I wash them. I use it on when I clean my fan out. Definitely recommend a built-in soap dispenser. All right, let's get to the oven. The oven was the main impetus for me doing a full renovation on my kitchen. Even though I hated my kitchen, I didn't really have the time to do it. But I decided I needed an oven, so I ordered it. When it showed up, I realized I had to do all the work. I got lucky and found the countertop when I really, really needed one. And I love having an oven. I love to bake baked goods. It's easier to warm things up with it. I bake things all the time. I'm sure I've gained a little bit of weight, but it's a huge luxury in a small vehicle to have an oven to heat up your food. So the oven brings us up to the front of the cabinets. I have a whole bunch of storage spots. Funny enough, these storage things were only determined by the stuff in the back. Once I got everything packed into and under the countertop, all the utility stuff, the wires, the tubes for the water heater, the propane tank, the drainage system for the sink. I really wanted to make the storage, all the storage under there, useful. So I built a few shelves. I just kind of stored everything in and around there. And it actually worked out really good. It's kind of an open concept storage. But with that open concept, I'm able to access all of my utility stuff in there a lot easier than having to remove coverings and stuff. Since I don't look down there, I'm not too worried about how it looks. As long as I can store things where I need to store them, I'm really happy. Starting at the front end of it, I have my axe right down here. It's really handy very rarely, but I like to have it out in the open because then it's not getting dented up. It's kind of a fancy axe. I really like to use it, and I like to look at it. So I have it out here displayed. It's just got magnets holding it on. Works really good right there. Moving forward, this is the door that covers my gray water. This is where I keep my porta potty packs, a bunch of cleaning stuff, filters for my coffee maker, the tubing that runs out of the bottom of the van for my gray water, just kind of my propane storage is down here as well for my small green propane tanks. But this small drawer here, this is where I store all my pans. I have smallish, medium-sized cast iron pan, I have a small saucepan, and I have a small pot, along with a strainer and a couple other things that I squeeze into this area. It's just a small little cabinet and using a space that otherwise would be wasted underneath the sink and next to the oven. Down at the very bottom, these double doors, this is where I really wanted to have my garbage. So I figured I'd just have open storage around the garbage, stuff everything in there, it would work great. And that's exactly how it worked out. But I wanted to make sure that my garbage was down in the bottom and right between the doors so that I could open either door and throw something in there, or open both doors and pull it out easily if I need to put bags in it or throw it away. So I covered my outlets and switches at the cubby end, but there's actually two switches hidden up here. I have one switch that turns on the lights over top of just the kitchen, and it's a dimmer as well. And then I have one switch that turns on the lights over the bed, which is on a dimmer too. And then I have a set of AC and DC outlets at the back of the kitchen. I use the AC one a lot when I pull out my toaster and start toasting. But other than that, I don't really use those outlets very much because then the cords are interfering with my cooking, which gets annoying. And then the additional switches I have are down below the oven. Down here, one of them's dead. It used to operate the gray water relay that I mentioned before, but the relay got too hot, so I just bypassed that relay, pulled it out, and put on just the ball valve, and that works great. I just have to reach down and open it, and it dumps the water for me. And then I can leave that open without it getting hot all the time. The other switch controls my water pump, so if I run out of water and my water pump just starts running, I can flip that switch without really a second thought, turns off my water pump, and I don't have to worry about it. Also, if I had an issue with the pipes, I could flip off my water pump really quickly, really easily. Also down here is a timer. What that timer controls is my water heater. I don't want my water heater coming on when I'm not aware. So with the timer, that means that it's always going to automatically shut off and it'll never come on its own. Even if I accidentally turn it on, it'll eventually shut back off. So that's a safety feature because the heater can blow out my batteries if it runs too much. So that really concludes the kitchen area. Now I'm going to move on to the area that I've been hanging out in while I've been talking to you and giving you a tour of the van. This is kind of my bench area. It's my favorite spot. So let's get into it so I can tell you all the little features that I put into this. Right near the front, just behind the driver's seat, I just shove all my shoes that I use kind of, within a normal regular rotation. Running shoes, several pairs of sandals, shower shoes, hiking shoes, stuff like that. But I haven't really found a good solution or a good way to clean that up. I want to be able to always access that area because there's a lot of electronics under the seat, and I also want to be able to move the seat a little bit. So I don't put anything permanent right behind there other than this wall here. My last renovation, I put this wall in. I just realized that it's really nice to have something to tuck the curtains against and behind. It also is really nice to make this area more enclosed and more private. The wall, I kept it simple, and I just sprayed like a poly sealant on there. So it's basically how it looks, except for that I cut it. I haven't even painted behind there because the curtains cover it all the time. I was able to attach my map holder, which is where my iPad is connected. Right next to that wall is my kind of control center. I can change how many amps my charger pulls from the outlet charging my batteries. I can do 15, 30. I think I can do more than 30. Works really nice to have that there. It also tells me what operating mode my inverter's in. It also allows me to change that operating mode just by using the switch. All the other information, battery, charge level, all that stuff I can get from my phone. So I actually have my battery monitoring unit is actually up under my dash connected to my remote start. Also in my control center is my heater controls. That was a mistake putting my heater controls up here. I thought it'd be a good spot. But actually, if you want to have a heater controls in an optimum place, put them by your bed, because in the morning when you wake up, really easy to turn your heater on. And when you go to bed, it's really easy to turn it off if it gets too warm. And you're never going to mind walking from the front of the van to the back of the van to turn the heater on as much as you're going to mind getting up on a cold morning and walking to the front of the van to turn on the heater like I get to do. I also have this handy window here. Right now I have it fully open. There's my screen, and there's all the way closed. Really nice to have that vent there, really nice to be able to have a screen, and it's really nice to be able to open it up all the way. Up above here I have a nice set of lights on a dimmer, so I can set them up whatever brightness I want. Most of the time I have them off during the day and on at night. It's nice to have light localized to where you're at, so I don't have to light up the whole van just to see over here. I did show you my curtain already, but I have this nasty colored curtain that's very general colored. I can use that to cover the window, and nobody can see in, but light and air can still move out in and out of the window. And then when I'm not using it, I can just tuck it up here, out of the way, and it just stays there. Really nice to have that curtain there to cover the window. I do sometimes hit my head on the curtain rod, but other than that, it's not a big deal. Behind me, you can't really see, but I have clothes, mostly jackets, but I have my jeans. I'll hang up shorts when I'm done with them for the day there. I have Winnie's leash. I have a bug swatter, really handy right here. I have my belt right here. So hooks are one thing you really want to have to hang on there. I have 4 hooks right behind here. I can potentially hit my head, but they're kind of tucked way up there, so I really have to angle my head to hit them. And then all the stuff that I have hanging here works really good as a back rest for my back. And I can also put a pillow down there, which I do quite often. And hanging up stuff like this, it's really nice. So if it gets like campfire on it, or it gets dirty or dusty or something, you can really air it out by hanging it up here rather than stuffing it into like a closet or a closed storage container. So underneath me is my electrical outlet. It's where I have my 600 amp hours of battery. It's where I have my charge controller for my solar panel. It's where my inverter charger is. It's a mess down there, but having that mess down there is not a big deal for me because I know it works and it's easy to fix because everything is way in the open instead of hiding all the wires. I have Winnie's food down underneath as well. The only place to have her quick and easy food storage is right next to her bowl. So that's why her food storage is there and not somewhere else like in the garage or underneath my bed. But it's nice to have the electrical system right in the middle of the van. Easy access in case something goes wrong or I need to flip some breakers if something needs to get fixed. All the innards are open. It's easy to add more in. So I don't mind having that utility area of the van down below in the bench. Not so pretty. I'm not here to show off my artistic skills with wiring. That's for the experts to do. They know that when they put everything together, it's going to work 100%. I don't know that, so I like to have some access. Moving out of the bench area, I have overhead storage right here. I found the handiest thing to have is to have my laundry right above my head here. I can just shove it in there. It's easy access. I need to get to my clothes almost every day. And over on this side is where I have basically all the the bathroom chemicals. All my pills for vitamins and stuff are up there. I have like fingernail clippers. I have a little to-go grab bag if I'm going to go take a shower, or if I'm going to take a shower here, I just pull it out and empty it. But to me, it makes a lot of sense. I have the things I want to be able to grab, open the cabinet, grab it right there. So if it's a little bit messier and doesn't look as organized, I'm okay with that, so that I can access the things quick and easy that I need to. Overhead storage is a huge win. It'd be really hard to put more weight up high than the down below stuff can keep balance. So I did overhead storage all over the place. Why? Because I can open it and it's right there. It's just right at head level, super easy to work with. I'm not crawling down. I don't have to get down low. I just get up, open it, and I can see everything in there. Moving down from the overhead storage, it has kitchen and bathroom in it. We run into my electronics cabinet. This is where I have all my electronics in these double doors here, directly behind me. Those double doors, I have a router, I have all of my charging stuff in there, and my electronics. Next to it, I have miscellaneous stuff in here, like I have anywhere from toilet paper to tape, from maps from all the national parks to my collection of pens. So it's just a random area. Everybody needs that. I have quite a few. But because I know where everything's at, it's really convenient for me. Below that is just kind of a miscellaneous drop-down storage cabinet / table. I can put stuff on here. And I just have some additional things down here. And then down at the very bottom here, I have a small laundry chute. It's about, this big total space, and that wide. But I can fit 2 large bags of laundry stuffed in there. So once this is full, it's definitely time for me to hit the laundromat. Right next to that is my porta potty. I don't really know whether to call it a shelf or a holder, but I can roll this guy out, and here's my porta potty, and then I can use it, put it back away. That way I don't have a porta potty sliding around the van. It's really secure in this space. It doesn't really have much of anywhere to go to, and it's easy to get in and out of, easy to sit on, and then my toilet paper is just over in these miscellaneous shelves right behind me. So it doesn't even look like a bathroom, but in about 10 seconds it turns into a fully functioning bathroom for me. Someday in the future, I do hope to put a composting toilet in here, because then that makes the van more international. Because if I go into Mexico, it's going to be really hard to find blackwater dump tanks. Actually, they're almost impossible. So I'm going to basically have to rent a toilet to dump it in there. But with that kind of covers my living area, work area, whatever you want to call it, the miscellaneous spot area that I use the most in the van when I'm not cooking or sleeping. Having said that, there's really only one other place to explore in the van, and that is the sleeping area, where I do all of my sleeping, and then underneath, that's where a lot of items are stored. And now we move into the bed area. This is a full queen size bed. It's about 7 inches of foam. Super comfortable. Underneath of the bed, I just have a blanket that covers my understorage. That keeps the air from moving around, the smells, all that. It works really good just to have a cheap blanket right here. Someday I might put some wood there, just like a wood slide-in door, just to keep that stuff back there a little bit more secure. But until then, I'm just going to stick with this blanket. It works really good. I can pull it off and wash it, and it adds to a nice smell and reduces the rattles and bangs. More fabric equals less rattles, and I can change the color anytime I want to buy a different one. The equipment that I have easy access under here is like some cleaning stuff, some tools, some recovery equipment, and some more tools, basically. And I also have some more overhead cabinetry here. Right here I just have miscellaneous stuff, a little bit of dishes, some paperwork, some backup stuff for the toilet stuff, some first aid, just all kinds of stuff up here. And at the very back is like linens and towels and other miscellaneous items. Right where I sleep next to the kitchen, I have a light that I can use for reading or for just waking up. I don't have to turn on the big overhead light. It also goes to red like the one up front does, and has 3 levels of white brightness. And then I can of course aim it wherever I want. It also has a USB charger that I use for my phone every night, and I always have a charge cable here too. With the conclusion of the bedroom portion, that's it. I got nothing else to show you. We checked out the outside last night, and today, this morning, we came inside and saw what I created with zero skills. If I can do it, you can figure out how to do it too. It's definitely life-changing to move into a vehicle, and I can't imagine my life without having done this a year and a half ago. For some reason, it made sense. It was the path that I was supposed to follow, and here I am. I'm really, really loving it, and I'm glad that I finally got to share my van creation with you. I hope you enjoyed the outside. I hope you enjoyed the inside. I hope you enjoyed getting to know me and Gertie a little bit better, because we have a lot of adventures planned, and we're definitely going to be taking you along with us. See you next time. Thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and have a great day.
Careful who you cross, careful who you test. Give me your worst and you'll get my best. 'Cause I don't know how to back down, how to back down. No, I don't know how to back down, how to back down. Careful, I'm a lion, don't test my pride. Standing like a mountain, looking the devil right in his eyes. Know how to back down, how to back down. No, I don't know how to back down, how to back down. No, I don't know how to back down, how to back down. No, I don't know how to back down, how to back down. I am a fighter. I am a fighter. I am a fighter. I am a fighter. Fighter. Got no limits, I got no fears. Only got my blood, my sweat, and my tears. Know how to back down, how to back